Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we are going to be looking at some OP and strong builds that you should know as we end Season 11 and begin Season 12. That's right, I am taking into account the itemization changes that are coming forth in a few weeks. Now the point of this isn't simply to say, hey, look at these strong builds you really should be playing, although that is kind of part of it. The other core point is that, listen, sometimes champions have suboptimal win rates, sometimes they are not looking happy and everyone just asks for buffs. Sometimes though, there's just hidden tech in different ways of playing that are required to bring out the best in their champion kit in the current game state. To that end, there will be some really interesting changes and builds that you should consider using in this video, but the main feature will be bringing light to my Volibear build, no, not Predator, that makes up a lot of his shortcomings. That being said, if you want to learn how to play these champions with all the tips, itemization, and suggestions you could ever want, the Mobalytics champion page has everything you need. With daily updates, the build page has the best items, runes, and more, which you can also auto-import into your client. And for you NA players, it also works for ARAM. Should you have a nemesis in a champion, you can head to the counters tab, which gives you a full breakdown of 200 IQ strategies and the champions you can use to inflict your wrath. If you simply want to learn a champion to increase your pool, you can head to the guide page, which will give you strength, weaknesses, power spikes, and a full game plan, in addition to a full combo page researched by only the most gifted mechanical gods. Finally, if you want to mimic the best in the world, the pro page will show you all the details from runes to abilities to items. All of this is also available on Mobalytics' companion, so head to the link in the description below to download that, which not only helps you climb more, it also supports the channel directly. Thank you very much. And now starting off with Volibear, it's worth noting that I've always been a W max enjoyer. This is something I just preferred from the skirmishing and farming and healing perspective. The issue lately though, and specifically the last few months, as we've lost a lot of nerfs to our itemization, Chem Tank, Divine Sundra, Predator as you're seeing on your screen now with a Divine Sundra, maybe a Sterax, maybe a Dead Man's Plate. This is a great introductory and default rune page for Volibear players who simply don't really know how to access the back lines. They don't know how to use ganking angles to get the best angle of approach. They are struggling with being kited and actually getting onto targets. However, if you really didn't have that issue and you're just somewhat struggling with Volibear overall, I decided to get into the mathematics, practice tool, see what the best Chinese players were playing in top lane, because that's where he's having more success. And the shift is as you see on your screen now. We are shifting to a Qmax, PTA, Triumph, Tenacity, Last Stand, Eyeball, and then finally Relentless or Ultimate Hunter. I myself prefer Ultimate Hunter as it is our gap closer, it is our survivability button, and of course dunking someone is always fun. However, into certain players where you need to match their gank cadence, maybe it's a Nunu steamrolling up and down the river like he owns it, maybe it's a Lilia, maybe it's a Hecarim, maybe it's a Talon, and you simply need to be everywhere at once, then of course we can get the benefit of Relentless. The reason for Eyeball is it simply gives so much AD scaling to the Qmax, which is a guaranteed hit, guaranteed damage on your target of choice. You're getting basically similar base damage on the Q to the W, but you have 120 bonus AD versus 100% AD, and obviously that AD is going to help you with your physical damage on the W. What you do lose is base healing and of course missing HP healing, so you have to understand that component. Cooldown on W obviously stays the same, but to bring it home, the core build alleviates a lot of those issues. Divine Sundra, we have healing, we have hyper penetration, then you get the Tiamat, then you get the Titanic Hydra. Follow this with a Dead Man's Plate and a Spirit Visage, and with a stacked Eyeball Hunter, you are looking at a Q that almost does 500 guaranteed damage. I wanted to up my survivability and up my skirmish ability in the late game. Basically, if I got into the backline, I wanted to guarantee assassinate someone while still being meaty and beefy. However, I thought about Season 12, I thought about what items could we run last to basically bring this home. Well, simply adapting is obviously the go-to choice. If you really need more magic resistance, you can, go for the Abyssal Mask, you can get Thornmail, you can get Randuin's Omen. Anything with HP is really useful because it boosts as a byproduct your Tiamat passive of bonus AD, which then translates to your ability, so you get stronger while building HP. You can just one-shot anyone and they can't kill you. However, you can of course go for things like Wit's End. It gives you a lot of DPS, although you lose a bit of the point of having the Tiamat. At this stage in the build, it's not really a big issue. However, for the homies who are paying attention to Season 12, you're thinking, wait, can I use this? And I'm saying, yes, of course you can. And they're saying, what about Sterax? And I'm saying, kind of boring. This is way stronger. And then they're saying, but wait a second, doesn't the new Demonics Embrace in Season 12 convert, your HP into AP? And I'm saying, yes, it does. So not only will you add in a huge 6th itemization spike with your passive and with your ultimate and with your E, you're also using that HP to not only give yourself AD, but also AP. I'm almost just too excited to even explain how well I think the new Demonics will pull together this build. Finally, if you do need more magic resistance, you can go Force of Nature, Season 12 specifically, although it does work now as well, just by having movement speed. And that's because it has a new stacking passive that basically, when you're fully stacked at 6, gives you 20% reduced magic damage, very nice against your Karthuses and your Lilias, but you gain 10% increased movement speed. And the whole point of this resurgence and reshift basically saying, you know what, I have to let W max die, I'm struggling to get onto targets early, I'm struggling to gap close, I'm struggling to basically do everything I want to do as Volibear. All of a sudden, I can clear faster thanks to the cleave passive on Titanic Hydra. I get 500 HP from that item as well. And with Deadman's, I'm increasing my AD and my guaranteed spell damage on the Q, and basically no one can get away from you. You just chase them down relentlessly, which is exactly what you want to do. And because you're running Tenacity, because you have Qmax, because you have Ultimate Hunter or even Relentless Hunter, it's basically a foolproof system that lets you scale into the later game, lets you drop a lot of damage in team fights. And finally, you can choose between Swifties and Ionian as you wish. It doesn't matter which one, you would have seen that choice on your screen before. If you put Ionian Boots of Lucidity in your itemization instead of Swifties, your ultimate will be on a 62-second cooldown at level 16. And I don't know, I kind of like that. I like having that ultimate as a dive bomb, as a team fight component, that it's always up whenever I need it. I've literally made plays using Ultimate Hunter where I've actually dodged spells in a moment I could not have dodged spells because I have this rune. And you would have seen that clip transpire as I said it. And obviously Swifties is if you need to match a high tempo jungler, just be everywhere. There is a lot of slows in the enemy team and you simply enjoy being places quickly. And I've actually made rotations to top lanes because of having the Swifties, and then I've died because my W didn't come back in time because I didn't have the Ionian Boots. So there are pros and cons to this. Choose the best one for your game style, although Ionian Boots are a great default choice. This is especially true if you happen to run Relentless Hunter and prefer that. And obviously Deadman's Plate and Qmax kind of alleviates a lot of the movement speed issues we've been having, and hopefully with the amount of damage, HP, sustain later on, as well as the huge amount of HP you have for pseudo tankiness, you can see that this build just hits a little bit different and you don't need the Predator rune to make Volibear viable. I never wanted to give up PTA or Last Stand. I think those are hugely valuable runes in conjunction with Divine Sunderer. And just in case you're wondering, my live Volibear companion on Zada.gg now has 54% win rate to 55% win rate on over 2,700 games. That's pretty great for a 49% win rate champion. So if you want to learn a lot about Volibear from me and as well as jungling from that guide, please have a look at the link in the description below. This new build will be up there early next week as well, so you can get your hands on it. Hopefully you enjoy the build, let me know how it goes for you, and now on to the next champion. Right, now that the main feature is over, let's go to the builds that people should be playing to make their champions a little bit more effective. Obviously you would have seen from the title that we're now talking about Hecarim. This is very straightforward. Yes, you can go Predator. Conqueror has its place. Conqueror is still an objectively better rune for the majority of situations. However, realize you all want to climb fast for the end of Season 11. You all want to get to the next season ready to use Hecarim to gallop around the new changes. Predator will provide so much more usefulness for the majority of your elos. Remember, what's the best way to play in lower elo? AFK farming? No, stop that right now. Rotations, speed ganks, repeat ganks. Hecarim is brilliant at that, and he can make all the junglers in those elos feel confused and irritated. Yeah, don't worry guys, I'm gonna sequence down and do Dragon. Wait, why'd you all die to Hecarim in the exact same time it took me to type that? That's the kind of impact you want with Hecarim, and you can go for the Ghostblade Rush into Divine and then Sterix as you see on your screen, but there are a lot of variations. You can skip the Sterix, go Death Dance. You can have that Gargoyle Stoneplate as well. You can have the GA. You can ignore the Ghostblade as a little bit of a bait, but I thought it was kind of a fun way to try it out. Although if you're dying too much, you're too squishy for your liking, keep that Sterix, get the Gargoyle Stoneplate, get the GA. You basically have infinite survivability, infinite sustain, and your ultimate and your E are still going to hit the enemy team with the force of Genghis Khan's entire force of Mongolian horses. Next up, a lot of people are basically saying, wait a second, I'm building Gore Drink here, I'm playing Talon, I'm hippity-hoppeting walls. I kind of dive in and then I die. Why? Is it possible that this is a squishy champion? Yes, everybody, yes. He's a squishy champion. He's an assassin. Kiana is an assassin. Zed is an assassin. You cannot build Gore Drinker anymore and get the bonus AD proc. It's total AD, and you no longer have the Spite passive, which means you no longer get to yeet into enemy teams without a brain and survive when you should die. That means we can perhaps go for something a little bit more scaly. Sure, you can go Electrocute. Yes, you can go Eclipse. But what about some Harvest? What about some Prowler's Ghostblade and Edge of Night? This gives you HP, survivability, a gap closer with an active that procced even more damage. What's not to like? You play him exactly the same way. Booties and Cosmic Insight is the standard secondary page, and by the way, you can go that on the Volibear build as well. I just prefer the eyeball synergy, and I'm sure Talon does as he collects them with this build, scaling Dark Harvest stacks and assassinating people as he's meant to. But if you have no idea how to engage, kill a target, and get out using E or using Ultimate, then you are actually going to die now, and that's why the Edge of Night is such a useful thing for assassins and why it still exists. If you like Eclipse, you like Electrocute for the guaranteed early damage, you want to snowball from this, you enjoy the shield survivability and the Omnivamp, you can still do that of course. But if you're already pretty good at the champion and you know how to move around the map, then having that Dark Harvest, well, now you suddenly scale a little bit more and Kha'Zix is worrying about his King of the Assassin title. Next up, we have a super fun one. I really want you to try this. This comes courtesy of Rank 1 on EUS Raiden Shogun C2 with a name that's as catchy as this build. This build truly is a disease giver. Predator, Cheap Shot, Eyeball, Ingenious obviously, Nimbus, Celerity, that's a lot of movement speed, but wait, Chem Tank, Deadmans, and Force of Nature. Oh yeah, and you take Ghost, so basically you're really fast, and no one is as fast as you. And using this Q-Max into E-Max build on Darius, our friend here did beat the former rank 1 EDG sub-jungler Junjia on his own Viego. Not that he did much in that game, but overall it provides so much utility, tankiness, movement speed. You become one of the hookers. Instead of having bot lane do it, you can now do it from the jungle. The best way I can describe it is unassuming. It's not something that's going to flourish and spike as a sort of really fancy Viego 1v9 carry build, but Darius is known from needing a little bit of movement speed. Now we just give him literally all the movement speed in the entire game. He has a hook, he has the ability to sustain, bleed, and of course farm a little bit faster than you think. But having resets, having long skirmish ability, having a strong method of gap closing with this build path and rune set offsets a lot of Darius's weaknesses in that he can be kited and that he struggles to get that hook off as the game goes on. This way you can get fed from the jungle without having to think, you can gank without having to think by pressing Predator and booties, and it is something with the addition of Force of Nature and other builds that will come in Season 12, that can be really something fun to use in solo queue to cheese the enemies, but if you're having success with it, carry on climbing. But as a full disclaimer, unlike certain other websites, I'm not going to tell you that TP Smite Diana is an actual thing that you could smurf with. DARIUS Jungle, if you're good with Darius, yeah, sure, you can technically smurf with it, but it's not some kind of hidden S+ tier pick. But if it works for someone who's rank 1 and playing in Challenger, then, you know, you get my point. Finally, to close out, we need to mention Viego. Congratulations on half of you for not going Divine Sundra. Shame on the other half of you for still going Divine Sundra. Riot are basically buffing him in a way that says build Shield Bow, build Kraken Slayer. So I'm here to tell you, do so. Sometimes champion win rates look bad because their builds aren't optimized. Volibear is a great example of that, and that's the underpinning message of this video. DARIUS Jungle can look really weak objectively, but you give him some movement speed, you change his build, you change the point of his existence, all of a sudden, you can get rank 1 with it. While also playing Talon as a full disclaimer. But as most of you love Viego, love carrying with Viego, want to use Viego now, in Season 12 and in all the future seasons because you just love his playstyle and his edginess, make sure you are itemizing him properly because a lot of his win rate suffering is because people are not doing this. They are not adapting to the team comp to build the proper item for him. And that closes that little PSA on itemization on Viego and a whole bunch of other builds. I hope you enjoyed this video, a little bit of something fun and loose, but also interesting in terms of design, buffing, and itemization choices and how they impact champions. Remember to test the Volibear build, let me know how it goes. A lot of the people I have explained this to already in the Discord have had a lot of fun abusing it, basically. Head to the Zara.gg guide if you wish to have me live coaching you, as I mentioned before. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like, share, and comment if you did enjoy and learn something. Head to the Gameplay channel for full gameplay breakdowns of all your favorite champions. Keep those beards giga smooth and combed, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.